At that time, we were looking at an invitation to join the ranks of the Warner Brothers group. One word: lazy.
In the hazy backrooms of Texas taverns, amidst the glow of neon signs and the thrum of a Fender amp, Billy Gibbons constructed his legend. A bearded legend whose guitar sound could cut through steel, and whose very presence could freeze conversation in its tracks. To the outside world, he was the hip designer of ZZ Top, part mystic, part technician, and holy blues. But behind that wily smile and drawling Texan accent lay a man of intense passion, a man who loved music as a sacred thing, not for sale, not for spectacle, and absolutely not for imitation. For decades, he kept his views close to his chest, smiling through the din of the business. But at 75, Gibbons started to break up that old guard, showing 5 artists who, in his terms, forgot where the dirt came from. These weren't merely snits. They were philosophic wars, struggles for the heart of American music. It all began with a cowboy hat and a shiny smile, Garth Brooks. To most, Brooks was the genial face of country superstardom, a man who could fill arenas and fascinate television viewers in one breath. But to Billy Gibbons, he was a reflection of all that went awry when the music became too clean. For Gibbons, the blues was never about perfection. It was about imperfection, the kind that resided in smoky bars, on cracked amplifiers, in heartbreak and diesel fumes. So, when Brooks swept onto the scene in the early 90s with his country blues patina, Gibbons apparently stumbled over his eyes so fiercely you could hear it from Houston. Brooks embodied the new Nashville, arena-friendly country with just enough grit to be Southern, but not enough to dirty your boots. Gibbons once cracked to a Texas DJ, "That's the kind of blues you can spill on your boots without staining them." The line spread like wildfire throughout music communities, bringing chuckles in Texas and scowls in Tennessee. The irony? Brooks had previously praised ZZ Top as an early influence. But when he started combining pop country hooks with what he referred to as Texas blues seasoning, Gibbons saw red. "That guy's got all the polish, but no dust," he once said to a fellow guitarist backstage. "He's playing barbecue sauce music, sweet bottled, and made for TV." Tension boiled over in 1991 at the American Music Awards. Both men were backstage. Brooks, being the showman that he is, went up to Gibbons with a handshake and a smile. "Man, I love your stuff," he told him. Billy nodded, unfazed. "Glad to hear it," he said. "Don't wear it out." The tension chilled. Brooks chuckled haplessly. Billy did not. And from that moment on, the Cold War between them was in place. Gibbons never mentioned Brooks' name in interviews, but his metaphors were so pointed they could cut. "There's country," he said to a radio interviewer, "and there's fake country. Only one of them reeks of diesel and heartache." Fans were swift to take the bait, referring to Brooks as the Nashville pretender. To Billy, the issue wasn't Brooks himself. It was the system he embodied. Nashville had made rebellion into merchandise, soul into symmetry. "The blues aren't designed to shine," Gibbons said in an interview to Guitar World in 1994. "If it does, somebody's selling it, not playing it." Rumors of ill feelings circulated when Brooks announced a roots blues album in the late 90s. Gibbons was asked for comment, but refused. But acquaintances said he was furious. "They're dubbing it blues again," he said to one of them. "It's marketing with a twang." When television producers asked Gibbons to play at a Brooks-hosted blues tribute, he turned them down politely, saying, "The blues don't wear rhinestones." The phrase was legend, scribed on fan t-shirts, yelled at shows, carved into the mythology of rock's purists. Gibbons hadn't set out to embarrass Brooks. He was standing up for the grime. "It ain't that the man can't sing," he once said. "It's that he's singing about broken hearts with a $1 million smile." To Gibbons, that was the crux of the issue, the disparity between truth and approachability. And while Brooks represented the slick future Gibbons resented, his next competition came much closer to home. One not based on fame, but on friendship gone wrong. Stevie Ray Vaughan. In Texas, the blues isn't a category, it's an oath of blood. Players climb through smoke-filled bars, exchanging sweat and soul rather than contracts. And for years, Gibbons and Vaughan followed in that same dusty trail. Stevie had worshipped Billy, referred to him as a hero, emulating his tone, his shuffle, his strut. During the early 1970s, young Stevie Ray could be found at ZZ Top shows on many nights, hovering around the amps, wide-eyed and quiet. Sneaked in there, just to listen, Billy remembered. Didn't say much, just observed and picked up. And pick up he did. By the early 80s, Vaughn burst onto the national scene. His first album, Texas Flood, struck like a bolt of lightning. Overnight, the world hailed him as the king of Texas blues. For Billy Gibbons, who'd carried that torch for 2 decades, it was like watching a student take the teacher's throne. He didn't like hearing people say Stevie brought Texas blues to the world. ZZ Top's longtime engineer, Joe Hardy, once said. Billy had been doing that since before Stevie even had a guitar. When interviewed in 1984 about Vaughn, Gibbons answered laconically, "The kid can play." But beneath that smile was a tempest gathering. Stevie's tone, his heavy tube scream Stratocaster tone, sounded curiously like Billy's. Too curiously. "He's not in my space," Billy supposedly told a roadie. "He's wearing my boots." The breaking point came at the 1985 Montreux Jazz Festival. Backstage, Stevie approached Billy, smiling like the kid who'd finally made it. "You're my inspiration," he said. Billy nodded, smiled faintly, and replied, "You learn fast." Then he walked away. The exchange lasted seconds, but it became legend, whispered in Texas bars for decades. There was talk of a collaboration, a symbolic passing of the torch. It never happened. "I don't give the torch to someone who's already got my flame," Billy once explained to a friend. That quote, half pride, half hurt, captured it all about their unspoken rivalry. Vaughn embodied purity, toughness, rebirth. ZZ Top, meanwhile, was playing synths, playing visuals, playing MTV. Fans started comparing them, wondering who was the real Texas sound. That drove Billy crazy, Hardy confessed. He was a fan of Stevie's ability, but detested the way people made him a yardstick to measure someone by. Then tragedy struck. Stevie Ray Vaughan died in 1990 in a helicopter crash. Gibbons' public comment was brief, sentimental, and chilling. He was a brother in tone, and Texas lost its best. Friends reported Billy was devastated, not only by the loss, but by all that had gone unexpressed. He'd wanted to say 2 things to Stevie: how much he admired him, and how much he hated him. Now, he couldn't do either. For years afterwards, Gibbons would steal Vaughn riffs into ZZ Top solos, a tip of the hat, a salute, and perhaps an atonement. He didn't despise Stevie, a Texas musician explained. He despised what went on between them, that brotherhood that unraveled without words. If Stevie Ray Vaughan tried Billy's pride, the following feud, with Lynyrd Skynyrd's Ronnie Van Zant, tested his patience. On paper, it was impossible. 2 Southern giants, Skynyrd and ZZ Top, brought together by guitars, whiskey, and dirt road rebellion. But in the background, it was a conflict of philosophy. Billy was the craftsman, precise, grooved, and disciplined. Ronnie was mayhem in cowboy boots, untamed, rebellious, and tardy for every soundcheck. When promoters booked the 2 bands together for a Southern rock tour in 1974, they anticipated fireworks. They experienced explosions. At first, Billy admired Ronnie's rawness. But soon, that fire became friction. One night during rehearsals in Birmingham, ZZ Top arrived to find Skynyrd's gear taking up the stage. Billy asked for space. Ronnie smirked. "You Texans think you've got the blues," he said. "We're the ones playing it." Billy smiled, leaned in, and fired back. "Then try playing it in tune." The room went silent. From that moment, the brotherhood was over. The tour became a contest. Each night, both bands tried to outplay the other. Longer solos, louder amps, sharper jabs. In Atlanta, Van Zant told the crowd, "We're the real sound of the South, not some Hollywood cowboys with cheap sunglasses." The crowd roared. Backstage, Gibbons muttered, "He's selling beer, not music." The final straw came in Jacksonville, Skynyrd's hometown. The running order flipped. Skynyrd would close. Billy consented. But during the evening when Ronnie's band overshot and ZZ Top forfeited their turn, Billy unplugged his guitar during a concert and disappeared without a word. The following day, ZZ Top dropped out of the tour. Later, queried about the rivalry, Gibbons provided one of his signature responses: "Sometimes you jam with brothers, sometimes with bandits. You figure out which is which." Ronnie, always the instigator, was questioned in 1976 as to whether he admired ZZ Top. He grinned. "They're good, probably a little too clean." Several months later, the plane crash that claimed Van Zant's life put an end to the feud once and for all. Billy never said anything publicly. Some claim he seethed, others that he wept. But one thing's for sure, two Southern rock kings never had their final jam. As the years went by, Gibbons' tolerance for pretenders thinned. The blues was changing, sampled, looped, and filtered into something that no longer resembled its source. And then Kid Rock emerged, a maelstrom of swagger, rap, and imagery of the South that froze Gibbons' blood and rage. By the late 90s, Kid Rock was referring to himself as the new face of American outlaw music, waving the Confederate flag during performances and crediting ZZ Top as an influence. "He's got the hat, the flag, and the fire," Billy said at one point, but not the story. It wasn't personal, initially, but when Kid Rock began marketing himself as the synthesis of country, blues, and rebellion, Gibbons felt something sacred was being pilfered. The first tension arose during the 1999 MTV Europe Awards when Kid Rock sought him out backstage sporting that characteristic smirk. "Man, we should do something together," he declared. "Old dog, new school." Billy glared him straight in the eye. Dogs don't bark with echoes. Kid Rock didn't know whether to chuckle or exit. The last affront occurred in 2003 when Kid Rock, while picking up a CMT award, stated on stage, "Some old guys in cowboy hats think rock and country should be in different bars. I say, buy the bar and play both." The camera picked up Gibbons in the audience, stone-faced behind his shades. Later, a reporter heard him grumble, "That boy thinks volume equals value." From there on, Gibbons' disdain became legend. In interviews, when they asked him about new Southern hybrids, he'd reply, "Some make music for the heart. Others make music for algorithms." It wasn't necessary to say who he was talking about. Kid Rock's camp continued to call with offers of collaborations and co-headlining tours. Billy turned down everyone. "The blues don't need Wi-Fi," he once said. "Some songs ain't meant for filters." When Kid Rock launched Born Free in 2010, rife with slide guitar and imitation grit, Gibbons rolled his eyes to a pal, he's selling barbecue, and forgot to light the fire. Their last meeting was at a 2013 Nashville benefit concert. Both men appeared on stage for jam. Midway through, Kid Rock began yelling over the music, hogging the limelight. Gibbons ceased playing. When the song was over, he just bowed, turned, and left the stage. A camera captured him mouthing to his drummer, "That's not music. That's karaoke with an accent." The video went viral. Kid Rock shrugged it off. Gibbons never spoke a word. But shortly afterward, ZZ Top put out La Futura, bare bones, raw, unapologetic. Critics deemed it a middle finger to modernity. Billy simply said it was honest. But if Kid Rock pushed Gibbons' patience to the present, his ultimate